Good morning. Welcome to M.A.D PD. There's going to be over 65 presentations today that I hope you'll be able to enjoy from the comfort of your home. It's 8 o'clock here in Milwaukee. I'm Kathy Bierna. I teach 5th through 8th grade science at St. Mary's Visitation School in Elm Grove, Wisconsin. We're a little bit west of Milwaukee. It's sunny, it's a little cool, but looking forward to at least hitting maybe 60 today. So welcome. Topic of my blog, or not my blog, topic of this broadcast is making science fairs relevant. And when I think back to science, I think back to when I did science fair in 7th and 8th grade, it really was heavily dependent on the scientific method. I had this big blue spiral notebook. Mrs. Finneran was my science teacher, and she was telling us the scientific method, and we hit the steps and the hypothesis and the problem statement. And it was all taken down in this big blue science notebook that I had. And it was great. When it came time to do the science fair, there it was. We knew what to do. And so this science fair, back in 7th grade particularly, I remember, was this labor of love for myself and my dad. And when we got second place, when I won second place, my dad and I were thrilled. And even all these decades later, I can remember the thrill of getting second place in the science fair. But now, my kids don't take notes in spiral notebooks, they take notes on Chromebooks. There's not as much focus on scientific method. We've integrated the engineering design method. And so is there really still a place for science fair in science class? And that's a really interesting idea. And, again, when I was in science class decades ago, we didn't do that many experiments. But now the focus of my teaching is much more hands-on. The kids are doing things. And so science fair, do you really, really need to do a science fair? Does it make sense? And does it accurately simulate what a real scientist does? So if we're trying to make our students scientists, is the right way to go about and do it? And of course, does it fit with NGSS? Is there a reason to do science fair anymore? And honestly, I start my science fair in September. The kids pick their topics, they pick their partners, and we go from there. And I grade each piece separately. So by the time mid-December comes, I'm done with science fair. I'm tired of reading research papers, I'm tired of correcting procedures, and I'm looking for a way out. And about that time last year, the Department of Public Instruction here in Wisconsin sent out a call that said, we're looking for people who want to look at how relevant are science fairs, and can we make them more relevant? And I was like, yeah, pick me. I want to be on this committee, because I was really hoping they were going to say, you know what, science fairs are outdated, let's skip them. But then the middle of January comes, and science fair is coming, and the kids are bringing their boards in, and they're making their presentations, and the judges are coming in. I use alumni judges, so I have a great time having these high school students come back and have them judge the science fair, and I get excited about science fair again. And so I started throwing this idea of dumping science fair out to my principal and some of the parents at my school, and they're like, no, you can't dump science fair. It's really important. It's an important thing. So I went into these meetings with the DPI with the kind of idea of, can we figure out a better way to do this? And, honestly, after 11 years, again, I was ready to dump. But I said, well, let's find out what other people are doing. And so I sent a survey out, and right up front, I'm going to say the survey was biased. I sent the survey out to people I knew. I had it on Facebook pages with professional development folks that I had met over the last few years. I put it on the National Geographic educator newsletter. And so people who filled the survey out were a little biased to the fact that they were into, if you will, professional development and staying cutting edge. So I got about 150 responses, which is pretty good. I had 47 states. And about 50% of the people said, yeah, I'm still doing science fair. So I was really interested in why the people who decided not to do science fair weren't doing science fair. And again, bias, most of the people filling out the survey were middle school teachers. So most of them fell between 5th and 9th grade. But the reason they said they weren't doing science fair, and I don't think this comes as any big surprise, is it's time consuming. It takes up a lot of time. And I can't disagree with that. It does. It takes up a lot of time. The other big one was that it was too much parental involvement. So people said, I'm tired of grading the parents' science fair. Now, as someone whose father helped them a lot with science fair, I get that. But there are ways to get around parental involvement, and hopefully we'll have time to talk about that in this session. The other reason that people said, they said, I don't have time. It doesn't fit in my curriculum. It just doesn't fit in the curriculum. And, okay, but maybe it does. So hopefully I'll show you how it does actually fit in the curriculum. The reason people did science fair was equally as interesting. And people said, because it gets kids to think. It gives them something that they can research, that they're excited about, that they can pursue. So someone referred to it as a passion project, which I thought was kind of interesting, that this was something a kid should be passionate about. And I'm going to actually use that term when I describe science fair next year for my it starts in September and it goes till the end of January. And so they better be passionate about it because they're going to be spending a lot of time with it. And so those were kind of the statistical background of what's going on, and again, in my bias subset of what's happening in the country. So is what it comes down. Because after much reflection, I realized that science fair is relevant. My students can choose to conduct several different types of projects. So this year I actually had 6 different ways that they could participate in science fair, and I'm going to add a few for next year. So my kids could do traditional science fair. They could see if they could light a light bulb with a lemon. They could look at how long batteries last. They could see what cleans a penny the best. I do draw the line at Mentos and Coke. That's been done too many times. But so that was traditional science fair. They could also do an engineering design. So they could create a product that they were interested in. And so one of my students, a 6th grade girl, said, I hate it when my soup is so hot that I can't eat it. So she designed a spoon that you blow into as you're stirring it so that it cools the soup down faster. Pretty cool. That's pretty cool. The other choices they had was science fair interactive. And by that, what I meant was that they would actually do their science fair project at the science fair. Because when I was thinking about it last summer, like, oh, fair. Here in Wisconsin, we do a lot of fairs, state fairs, all those kinds of things. And there were no people with 3-sided trifold displays at the fair. There were people eating and people doing and people playing and people talking, people interacting. And that was kind of our science fair so boring. And we also had a maker fair here that I went to, and I got pretty excited about because it was all hands-on. What could I do? So if they chose to do interactive, they still did a research paper, they still had hypotheses, they still collected data, but they actually collected their data at the science fair. And so our younger students came through, did the experiment, and learned something that way. That one was not very popular this year. It was the first time I rolled it out, and the kids who did it said, oh my gosh, this is too much work. I'd rather just stand there and present. Those kids are exhausting. Like, yeah, welcome to my world. So hopefully there'll be more people who want to do that next year. The other options they had were that they could participate in eCyber Mission. And they could do eCyber Mission traditional, eCyber Mission engineering design. If you're not familiar with eCyber Mission, it is a joint project between the National Science Teacher Association and the U.S. Army. It is international. The kids conduct an experiment or create a product, and they enter all their information online. It's judged virtually, and then the students can win at the state level. If they win their top 3 in their region, they compete at the regional level, and then they can go to the national level, which is in DC, and they win a lot of money along the way. So I had actually a 6th grade group last one, at the state level and also competed regionally. We did not get to nationals. And I had a different group this year who also competed regionally, and we'll find out on Thursday if we're going to DC in June to compete. But each of those kids got $2,000 in savings bonds each. So a lot of kids want to do it. The hitch there is that if you're going to compete in a cyber mission, it's not the lemon lighting up the light bulb or the battery. It is not Mentos and Coke. It's solving a problem in your community. So for example, the kids this year for me were looking at gray water. So they wanted to see if they could use gray water to actually grow bean plants. And so they collected water from the shower and from washing dishes. And so that was their project this year. That one was trying to eradicate the invasive species of zebra mussels in our lakes because it's destroying our. So they have to be a little bit more community-based, and the kids have to actually get their information out into the community and make a difference in the community. So science fair, regular, science fair engineering, science fair interactive, eCyber mission regular, eCyber mission engineering, and then my last one was they could compete in the Bright Schools competition. The Bright Schools competition, also an NSTA competition where students look specifically at light and sleep and how it affects. And this year we did get in the top third of the participants, but it was my first year competing. So maybe next year we're a little bit better, but we were pleased with getting in the top 50. So that's one of the ways that I've tried to change up my science fair a little bit and make it a little bit more relevant. The other ideas that came out of the DPI group that I've been working with, and some of the things that I thought were really fabulous, was another way was that they could choose to do a citizen science project. So citizen science is a way of collecting data that goes into a larger pool nationwide, across the world, of scientists everywhere who are collecting information. And so they might decide to look at the frog and toad populations of a local pond and put that information into a citizen science project, or it's the North American Amphibian Monitoring Project, and then report on that data and include that data again as a real scientist, which is really pretty cool. I'm excited about that. I hope the kids do that next year. Another one that we do, career investigation. So they would do research. They would have a journal, and they would have to actually go out and spend a certain number of hours, depending on your kids, your students, your situation, how long they would have to spend, be up to you. I'm thinking 9 hours, that they would have to go out and spend it in that environment. So if they want to software engineer, they would go out and spend 9 hours with that software engineer. If they want to find out, learn about food chemistry, they'd find someone that they could go and shadow for 9 hours, and they would take detailed notes on what the responsibilities of the job. They'd have to actually learn something to do that related to that STEM career. I thought that was a fabulous idea. It wasn't mine. Another one was, we called it tools of technology, where they would actually go and figure out how something works. So why does GPS work? How does it work? I think it's magic, but how does it actually work? How does a drone fly? How does a 3D printer work? How does your smartphone work? What is Bluetooth? And so they would actually investigate the technology itself and run on it. It would not be an experiment, but it would be more of a research-based kind of project. The other idea would be that they could, just blanked on what the other idea was. But they could also just do a demonstration. So they could demonstrate how something happens. They could demonstrate Bernoulli's principle, for example. And those would be ways that you could change it up and make it a little bit more relevant, make it a little bit more fun. So yeah, science fairs are still relevant. They replicate the work of real scientists. I mean, real scientists formulate hypotheses, they test those hypotheses, they analyze their data, they redo it, and they do it again, and they do it again. And real engineers do the exact same thing. They test, they retest, they build prototypes. This is what we want students to learn how to do. It's also representative of 21st century skills that students need to have. Presenting their results through written presentations, through displays, I'm still sticking with my trifold display because there's something about kids having to actually physically cut and paste that I think they should learn. But just to look at the NGSS a little bit more closely, I know I'm coming up on 15 minutes, but NGSS asks students to be creative. And I think making a spoon that cools your soup is pretty creative. I think that matches. NGSS wants students to ask questions. Okay, sounds suspiciously like a problem statement. Okay, NGSS encourages research and rigorous understanding. Yep, my research paper is going to stick. Not getting rid of that. The NGSS asks for data collection and analysis and providing evidence. And sounds like my science fair requirements. So yeah, science fair stays. A good science fair. It's students who challenge themselves, finding creative, original solutions to problems through collaboration. Easy? Yeah. Essential? Yeah. Relevant? Yeah. So I open up to any questions or comments that people want to share. That would be great. There's a chat box on the side if you want to type in, or if you want to talk to me, that's okay too. If not, sign out. Thank you very much for watching. Those of you who are watching not in real time, you're certainly welcome to get a hold of me at kathybierna@gmail.com, or my Twitter handle is scientistmaker. Thank you very much and have a great day.